In 1947, when Pakistan emerged as a new nation on the world map, it entered a global environment that was already tense, divided, and rushing toward ideological confrontation. The Cold War had begun to shape every region and every alliance. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a struggle for influence, and smaller nations were becoming important chess pieces in this global competition. Pakistan, though a young nation with limited resources, found itself standing at the crossroads of geopolitical significance. Surrounded by regional rivalries, economic challenges, and the need to secure its borders, Pakistan began searching for powerful allies who could support its security needs and economic aspirations. At the same time, the United States looked toward South Asia and saw Pakistan as a strategically located country that could help counter Soviet expansion. Both nations needed something from each other, and this mutual need laid the foundation of a long, complicated, and often unpredictable relationship that would continue for decades. When Pakistan first approached the United States for support, it was not simply a request for financial aid, it was an attempt to build a partnership that could provide long-term security. The U.S., on the other hand, was exploring ways to counter Soviet influence in Asia. Pakistan's geographical location, bordering regions that were becoming hotspots for ideological competition, made it a natural point of interest for the Americans. In the early 1950s, discussions intensified, and soon Pakistan was included in U.S.-led defense alliances like SEATO and CENTO. With these alliances came military training programs, equipment transfers, financial assistance, and diplomatic engagement. Pakistani officers began receiving training in American military academies, and U.S. advisors started arriving in Pakistan to help modernize its armed forces. For Pakistan, this was an opportunity to strengthen its national defense in the face of its biggest rival, India. For the United States, this was the creation of a foothold in a region increasingly vulnerable to Soviet influence. As the partnership grew, both nations celebrated what seemed like mutual understanding and shared interests. American-built aircraft and weapons entered Pakistan's inventory, and economic assistance helped Pakistan develop infrastructure, agriculture, and industry. The 1950s and 1960s were full of optimism as both sides believed they had found a reliable partner. Yet beneath this surface of cooperation, the relationship was slowly revealing signs of fragility. Pakistan expected full support against India, especially during conflicts like the 1965 war, but the United States, balancing multiple interests, imposed arms restrictions, deeply disappointing Pakistan. The trust that had taken years to develop was suddenly shaken. Pakistan realized that American support came with conditions, limitations, and strategic calculations that did not always align with Pakistan's immediate national interests. Still, the relationship did not completely break. Instead, it shifted, adapted, and continued in a different form. As decades passed, each new global development brought changes to the way Islamabad and Washington viewed each other. In the 1970s, the situation grew more complicated. The United States began opening diplomatic channels with China, a country Pakistan had a close relationship with, and Pakistan played a secret but crucial role in arranging this diplomatic breakthrough. This act strengthened Pakistan's position in U.S. foreign policy, but it was followed by concerns over Pakistan's nuclear ambitions. The U.S. wanted to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons, while Pakistan saw nuclear capability as essential for its national security. Once again, the relationship found itself standing between cooperation and confrontation. Despite disagreements, both nations understood something important: they needed each other. Their partnership was not based on emotions or personal friendships, it was based on strategic necessity. As the story progressed, every new challenge brought new opportunities. The early decades of Pakistan-US relations were a combination of cooperation, misunderstandings, expectations, disappointments, and renewed commitments, forming a long, winding history that continues to influence global politics even today. The first 4 decades of this relationship were marked by both remarkable collaboration and equally significant tension, but they created the base on which all future interactions between the two countries would stand. As the world entered the 1980s, a dramatic event reshaped global geopolitics and brought Pakistan and the United States closer than ever before. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, an event that ignited international alarm. The United States feared that Soviet expansion into Afghanistan could disrupt global balance and eventually threaten key regions, including the Persian Gulf. Pakistan, sharing a long border with Afghanistan, suddenly found itself on the front line of a global conflict. The situation was dangerous, unpredictable, and full of consequences that would shape the future for decades. The United States understood that Pakistan's role in this situation was essential. Pakistan understood that it could not face the coming crisis without strong international support. Thus began one of the most intense and strategically significant periods of Pak-US relations. The partnership that emerged in the 1980s was not built slowly but with urgency. Millions of Afghan refugees poured into Pakistan, fleeing the Soviet invasion. Pakistani intelligence agencies began coordinating with the CIA to support Afghan resistance fighters, known as the Mujahideen. The United States started channeling massive financial and military assistance to Pakistan. Weapons, training, and resources flowed into the region, and Pakistan became the central hub of the anti-Soviet resistance. Diplomatically, Pakistan gained global recognition as a frontline ally, and the U.S.-Pakistan partnership reached its strongest point. For Washington, Pakistan was an indispensable partner. For Islamabad, the United States became a necessary source of strength in a highly volatile region. But like every chapter in Pak-US relations, this period also contained seeds of future complications. When the Soviet Union eventually withdrew from Afghanistan in 1989, the United States reduced its presence in the region. The immediate danger had passed, and American interest shifted elsewhere. Pakistan, however, was left dealing with the aftermath: millions of refugees, a destabilized region, rising militancy, and growing internal security challenges. On top of this, the United States imposed sanctions on Pakistan due to concerns about its nuclear program. A relationship that had been celebrated throughout the 1980s suddenly faced distrust and diplomatic distance. Pakistan felt abandoned after serving as a frontline ally. The United States, meanwhile, justified its actions through non-proliferation policies. This cycle of partnership and disappointment became a recurring pattern in Pak-US relations. The 1990s remained a decade of uncertainty between the two nations. Bilateral communication continued, but the warmth of the 1980s was gone. Pakistan struggled economically, politically, and socially, while the United States maintained pressure through sanctions. Yet global events did not allow this distance to remain permanent. On September 11, 2001, the world changed again. The United States launched the War on Terror, and once more Pakistan found itself at the center of American strategic calculations. Washington needed Pakistan for logistical support, intelligence cooperation, and regional access. Islamabad needed American backing to stabilize its domestic situation and avoid international isolation. The partnership was renewed, but once again under complex and high-pressure circumstances. The post-2001 era created another intense phase of cooperation. The United States designated Pakistan as a major non-NATO ally. Billions of dollars in aid flowed into the country, and both nations worked together in military operations, intelligence sharing, and counter-terrorism activities. Yet trust issues appeared repeatedly. The U.S. questioned Pakistan's role in regional groups. Pakistan criticized U.S. drone strikes and policies that seemed to ignore Pakistani security concerns. The relationship often moved like a pendulum, sometimes swinging toward strong collaboration, sometimes toward tense disagreement. But neither side could completely walk away. Their interests were too deeply connected, and the regional challenges were too significant to ignore. As time passed, new global dynamics emerged. China's rise, shifting American priorities, changes in Afghan politics, and Pakistan's evolving foreign policy all contributed to a new era of Pak-US relations. The relationship became more balanced, not as dependent as before, not as emotional as earlier decades, but still significant. Both nations recognized the importance of maintaining communication, supporting regional stability, and cooperating in areas like trade, education, security, and climate challenges. Though the highs and lows continue, the relationship, shaped by history, necessity, and geography, remains one of the most complex partnerships in modern international relations.